Hello and welcome to another edition of 2023's Aspire to Inspire and Embrace the Power Production. I'm your host, Dr. Jennifer Blalock, Chief Energy Officer of Ingenuity Solutions. And this evening, I am super excited to introduce you to someone who inspires me. We had a chance meeting, I guess about 3 or 4 years ago, Cyntoria, and our worlds continue to collide.
Yeah.
It is my pleasure to introduce and read your super cool bio. So give me just a second. Cyntoria lives by the philosophy that there is very little that cannot be achieved without hard work and dedication. And I can speak from experience that she works very, very hard and is extremely dedicated to making a difference in a unique community known as Duval. But we're going to get to that in a minute. She is a graduate of Florida A&M University School of Psychology and the Department of Sociology program, as well as holding a University of Phoenix Master's in Business Administration. Her rigorous courses of study have promoted a level of discipline and comprehension that has allowed her to multitask. She is a triple, quadruple threat, making a difference in lots of different areas, which she's going to share with us tonight. And she does so with confidence, with ease, and with love. She has worked for many nonprofits, government agencies, health, social welfare, educational agencies, and won various awards in her hometown, Jacksonville, Florida. She also assists various grassroots agencies with professional and curriculum development, sits on a lot of community boards and agencies, is a community activist, and is co-founder of A Great Day in La Villa, a local artist coalition. Currently, she works with the city of Jacksonville as the data quality coordinator in the Ryan White Part A grant. That's a lot of cool stuff. Cyntoria, tell us, I guess, to get started, what encouraged you to inspire other people?
I think I got it pretty organically. When I look at my family's been in the city of Jacksonville since the 1920s. My great grandmother's home, Roberta Armstrong, is actually less than 3 blocks away from the house that I purchased. Like she purchased a home like in 1921 or something like that. When I looked at it on the census. She was she was a widowed woman because her husband went to war and he succumbed to circumstances, and she had to raise 5 kids on her own and then become an entrepreneur in a difficult time in America, let alone in Florida. So I think I got it before I was here to help people and be available to people. My mom was a social worker and she worked as a vocational rehabilitation specialist.
Wow.
And then everyone else in my family, including her at some point, were school teachers. So I just think that I'm just part of a community that people who help can help.
Absolutely. And you certainly live that. It's in your DNA. So That is good to know. I mentioned earlier that you and I have done a lot of work together, and our passions and purpose has crossed paths. Tell us a little bit about some of what sets your heart on fire, what gets you fired up, and areas that you are super passionate about.
I mean, primarily it's always going to be with young people, even though my path is kind of veered away from working directly with young people consistently. Like I said to you before I got on this call, I was assisting one of my students with her science homework, little third grade, sweet little girl. And I think because adults could be a bit difficult because generally I work in social services, so we come with a lot of stuff. But it's the rawness of young people. It's honest. If you like it or not, it's the honesty of the perspective they come from. And then at some point we have to carry the torch, pass the torch on to them. So it's always whatever work, whatever capacity that's needed with young people. We're in a precarious space right now in the world post, I guess, COVID. So we have a generation of young people who have nothing to really guide whatever this looks like. If something did happen in 1920s, but hey, those people are since gone, a majority of them, that read into, what is it? A whole bunch of stuff in American history. I'm a history buff, so I might go back and forth into that. But for me, it's always young people and just them being the best they can in society. So however way I could kind of stick in there, I kind of find myself in those spaces with them.
Absolutely. And I think, a lot of people focus on young people, in particular, those vulnerable ages in Jacksonville, ages 16 to about like 25,
Mm-hmm.
young males, and those with justice involvement. And that's a passion point for you. I know that's a passion point for me as well. What are some of the things you're seeing and or have been involved with that you really feel like can make a difference and help a young person choose the right path, get back on the right path, find the right path after perhaps some challenges, some obstacles in their way?
I was talking to a friend of mine about a similar question a couple of days ago, and she was she does more outreach. She does a lot of like intensive outreach. She works in a shoot and response. So if there's a immediate crime happening in Jacksonville, she'll put
Gotcha.
herself in space so the police could be as less impactful negatively into a space. And she ran into last weekend when all the Florida, when all the Jaguar stuff was going on. She was in the plaza, not that far from here on the east side of Jacksonville, and she ran into two girls, and she knew they were out of place and almost potentially going to go into human trafficking because they just were so out of
Oh,
place.
wow.
So she had an immediate response, and the grandmother, she finally got in contact with a grandmother, and this I know I'm going going about a long way of kind of answering your question, but periodically I have to review if I am being impactful in the space that I'm occupying with young people or people in general. And the grandmother kept saying, well, she has these mental health issues and we need to call the police. And she was like, what we need to do is not involve people so much into our resources. Sometimes we get so resource oriented with our clients we work with.
Mm-hmm.
I think stabilization for young people, just if it's them reconnecting with their family. When I was with Job Corps, the biggest issue I had with a lot of the situations I had to assist with was a lot of kids who came to Job Corps could really care less about actual Job Corps. They just needed somewhere to be. They needed somewhere stable to be. They needed somewhere to sleep, 3 meals to eat, somewhere to shower, and people to have a community with. Like those bare basics, a lot of times we take for granted. And in a city, Jacksonville has in such a growing population of people, the transitness of Jacksonville is also increasing, and I don't think a lot of us are really paying attention to it. So just to answer your question, I think the biggest issue, at least in this space that I'm occupying right now, it's just this stabilization of families and of young people. So when they're settled, then you could think more clearly, and you could be able to receive more educational programming, or you could receive literacy assistance, or you could receive job readiness assistance or college readiness assistance.
Right.
But if you have no place to go at night to lay down consistently, if you're going from couch to couch,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and then your space might be compromised, you can't really think of those things. And I just remember some of the students I was working with a few years ago, I try to drill them with different things to assist them with. And they're like, sometimes I can't even think of that right now. I need to figure out where I'm going, especially when COVID hit. I remember it was like March 26, 2020. And the reason why I remember the date exactly is because we all had to leave off campus, and then we had to find space for a lot of kids to go because they couldn't necessarily go home. A lot of young people are people in general, because I also work with the impactfulness of HIV and AIDS in the city of Jacksonville with a Part A Ryan White grant. And a lot of the biggest issues we're having with people in general, I see in social services in my space, it's just stabilization of people being able to pay rent, be able to pay their mortgage, the lights not getting turned off,
Right.
that kind of thing. And then I think that services or just assistance could kind of flow from there, because then you could create a correct community for yourself, however that looks. You could develop interest for yourself. But if you don't have anywhere to sleep, then I think that's a
Well,
big issue.
and to your, what you've shared is illustrative of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? We
Mhm.
can't get to the top of it, the pyramid, and worry about self-actualization and the
Mhm.
highest level of personal awareness and achievement if we don't have our basic food security, safety, right? You know, if those things, food, housing, and safety aren't taken care of, you can't worry about, you know, those other things or put focus on them.
Absolutely.
And there are so many studies that talk about, it's why the free and reduced lunch program came about, right? Which of which I was a recipient, because, you know, studies have shown if you come to school hungry and you're worried about that rumble in your stomach, not the quadratic, you know, formula, right? You
Yeah, most
can't
definitely.
concentrate without that support. So I think what you're sharing is very true. And I would almost get a little more metaphorical with it, in that I think our young people today, home is find that sense of restlessness is not just about a physical home,
Yeah,
but also a spiritual and
definitely.
a sense of community. Where do I belong? Who
Most
am
definitely.
I? And it's so much more complicated and layered than you're a little bit younger than I am. But I mean, I know from when, you know, I'll be 50 this year. When you know, we had, you know, a lot of things as a teenager, you're questioning things. I feel like as a teenager in 2023, it's a whole
It's a
other,
whole
like
different
it's a
thing.
lot more, right?
Whole different thing. And
Yeah.
it's about different, it's different identifiables, you know, like
Yeah.
things were pretty, you know, simple. You know, you're either rich, middle class, or poor, either from the South, the North, or the Midwest, black, white. In the South, it's just was black and white in the 90s in
Yeah.
Jacksonville. But now you have so many different narratives. Like a young person's narrative is not necessarily associated with race anymore.
Right.
You know, are you alternative? Are you a skater kid? You know, do you
It's
indulge in drug paraphernalia or culture? You know, I'm just being completely honest. A lot of things, and then a lot of times parents try to connect with young people in those certain spaces. Like we were a lot more, no matter really how, whatever your circumstances were, for most of us who grew up in the 90s, we had some type of community outside of home because we didn't have social media.
right.
You know what I'm saying? We had to leave the house to communicate with other people.
Yeah.
There would never have been any home. How a homeschool had happened? You know what? Your teacher gonna call everyone on a phone tree, and we all talk on the phone like a phone. Like it wouldn't have been existing if we would have had a
Right.
COVID in 1993, 4 or 5. You know, a lot of these young people they don't connect with anything. A lot of them care less about being around physical people. I'll give you a friend story. My friend, same friend who's in social service, her son had senior skip day a few days ago, which is weird that they have them in the middle of the year like this now. But I'm like, all right, whatever. And so he says to her, Mama, what's senior skip day? And I'm like, why would you be sharing that with your mom? Like, that's so weird. Like, there used to be a thing you kind of sneak to do. And then she explained it to him because they have a very open dialogue conversation. And he was like, well, who's going to take me? And she was like, well, baby, you got to get in the car with your friends. She was like, I don't trust them. Can you take me? Our kids are different.
Yeah.
Our kids are different. They think different.
They
They
do. And
different.
absolutely. And I think it's exciting because it's challenging the way we think,
Yeah, it
but
is.
it's also when you think about how free and how many, you know, how freeing that is, but it's also like overwhelming because there's so many choices and so
Mhm,
many things they have to define about themselves. Like you
mhm.
said, they're writing their own narrative, but the narrative is so fluid and changing and, you know, can be a little apprehensive. So I would say, you know, you've built the case for helping establish that sense of home, that sense of
Mhm.
stability, which I definitely concur. What would you say to parents out there or caretakers, teachers, people working in spaces with youth who are in, you know, different levels of crisis or, you know, challenges? Where can they start to help build that community and that sense of stability? How can they contribute to it?
Um, I think that step one, you just have to put your ego aside. And
Mm,
you literally have to be a shepherd towards space with young people nowadays because they will not allow it any other kind of way. They could care less about your agenda in the conversation. They will shut that all the way down. You have to approach it like old school, like when you go to church and it's the usher board in the front and they meet you where you are. They're not going to really tell you to change, put some pants on, your outfit's fine, your hair is fine. Just come into the space with me. And that's how we have to kind of approach young. That's how I've had to readjust my own mind with young people. I remember when I was last under one of the grants that under one of your grants, when I was at DuPont Middle School, and this young girl, she really in a heartbeat taught me that lesson. I was like, why are you doing this and why are you doing that? And she just had a full meltdown. I just had to kind of hug her and grab her. She was yelling at me, and naturally, I'm a big girl, and I'm Cyntoria, and I really don't want. I'm that back and forth with young people. I was really old school in the sense like when I'm speaking, you stop speaking. And at that moment, I really had to like calm that down and just really allow her, if I need to be your punching bag for the second, if you need to yell at me to hear yourself, okay, that's fine. And we have to kind of like step back and kind of walk with them or even behind them to a certain degree. We're not necessarily leading them with everything. So that's when I'm looking at teachers, you got to figure the mood of the space that you occupy with young people. Even with people who have after school program, and you might have all these beautiful ideas. I want to do a robotics program. We're going to have a swim team. We're going to have whatever. But those kids might be like, no, I'm not into that. Or you listen to them between the lines of what they might want. So we have to really survey, because they are our clients, to see what they really want. As parents, I'm not a parent. I always tell people I'm not a parent. I don't claim to be a parent. I give you good auntie energy. I don't give you parent. But even our parenting space, we have to like, because I have a wonderful parent, and with her, even with me being 45 and her being 71, our conversations have an ebb and flow to them. She never dominates space for me. She always allowed me to kind of like, she'll put me in a space and see how I figure it out. And if I reach for her, then she'll reach back for me. And if we kind of go in that kind of, I know it sounds real simple and maybe even a little silly, but we have to kind of take all of the, I'm the adult and you're the child out of it.
I couldn't agree more. And, I have one child, she's 25, and I have a foster son. They couldn't be more different and they couldn't be more alike, to be honest with you. They are very, very similar in a lot of ways, and they both just want to be seen. They don't want me to intercede unless I'm invited. My foster son is incarcerated, and I remember I was giving him some advice on something, and he checked me. He said, he taught me something. He said, MYOB, Dr. B. I said, what's that? Mind your own business. He said, that's how I get along in here. And that's what you need to do, right? He said, if I have questions about my education or going to college, you got me. I know you do. Or about getting a job. But when it comes to how to survive and be successful in a level 10 juvenile detention center, sit back and watch, because you don't know nothing. And he couldn't be more right. But I was also going to share, I was driving back from Jacksonville with my daughter, and she was driving so I could do some work. And I noticed she had texted me, and she texted me these 2 words, and I would show you on my phone, but it says, notice me. And I was thinking about how powerful that was, that no matter how old our, young people get, because really that 18, to me, the most vulnerable ages are like 17 to 25.
It is.
Because you are finally establishing yourself away from your parents, away from college. If you went to college and you graduate and you're 22, think about how much you changed from 18 to 22, and then from 22 to, it's like, okay, I'm no longer associated with a school. I'm no longer defined by being a student. Now I have to be this independent individual person that gets up and goes to work and knows what I'm supposed to do with my life, So I think what you said, it's really about just meeting them where they are and giving them that hug on their terms sometimes, right?
Most definitely.
Well, I really appreciate all the work that you do to serve the community in so many different ways. How can people get in touch with you if they need your support? What are some different things you have coming up? Tell us what's going on.
Okay. I'm again, like I said to you, I'm doing my own personal remap of my life right now. Some things I'm working with. I'm in the talks of working with Urban League to help them rejuvenate their Champions for Change program. I was part of a similar youth programming when I was a kid, a long time ago. So we're trying to reestablish their monthly leadership programming. So me and Ms. Wilson, we just recently talked about that. So we should be moving forward sometime in the spring to try to recruit young people and establish some dates. So if y'all out in the world have any young people in the city of Jacksonville between the ages of, I think is 13 to 21, and you think they're a great leader, because Urban League is a great organization. Helped me develop as a leader, get out of my shy mode when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Take you on conferences and stuff like that. I'm also working with, I think it's Tech in Black and White, with Bonzel. And we're just still trying to think tank some ideas of bringing more technology awareness or creative technology awareness with young people in the city of Jacksonville, specifically young men. So I'm working on that with him. I can't get out of it. I'm always mentoring and tutoring young people. I currently working part-time on contract with Thais LLC. We're educational and tour program where we take young people on college tours. Hopefully we get back to that. We put a pause on it because of COVID for a long period of time. But if your kid needs mentoring or tutoring, free mentoring, find me on Facebook, find me on LinkedIn. Cyntoria Thomas is only one of us with my name spelled this way in the city of Jacksonville. It's a few of us, but exactly like that, that's me. Usually I have a little bald-headed picture, so you'll see that. As I said to you before, I'm working with the city of Jacksonville. This is my new venture to get more into the data administrative space in my head. As a coordinator of data and quality with the city of Jacksonville, Ryan White Part A. If you're not familiar with what that is, Ryan White was a young man. He would have been around our age. He would have been between 45 and 50, which is kind of strange. But when he was a teen, he passed away of HIV. And then a lot of programming was established in his name afterwards, the short of it all. And I'm part of the Part A. The city of Jacksonville is a procurer of about a large amount of money that provides money to a lot of nonprofits in the city of Jacksonville to run their programming in certain capacities. If you are a person impacted with HIV or AIDS in this area of Jacksonville, Duval County, Clay County, Nassau County, and you want your voice heard, even if it's not directly, if you have a family member or friend, because the city acquires the grant, we need people in the public to come out to our different forums to say, hey, do this or not do this. So again, find me on Facebook at Cyntoria Thomas on Facebook. That's the easiest way. That's my personal Facebook. And then I could direct you in whatever you need assistance with.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Cyntoria. I want to tell you, I think you said you are in your redefine stage, and I will give you this piece of just whatever it's on my heart to tell you, that follow your heart. You definitely have a gift for investing in and pouring in, connecting with young people, particularly those who are just unsure about where to head. So please continue to stay in that space. Follow your purpose. You're doing great work. You're inspiring and have touched so many along the path. Certainly managing data is important, because without that, we wouldn't know our impact, wouldn't be able to measure things. But the human touch is so important. The work that you do there, it's so wonderful that you pour into Duval as much as you do as someone who was born and raised there. And it's your, it's your city, it's your legacy. So thank you for being someone who aspires to inspire. And I want to thank everybody for watching. Get connected with Cyntoria. For those of you out there who know others who are inspiring and making change in their communities, please drop us a line, leave us a comment, recommend somebody to be featured on an upcoming show. But until then, keep on inspiring others. I'm your host, Dr. Jennifer Blalock, and we'll see you again soon.